Hey everyone, we are here for the second speaker session. As you all know, Atri Sharma was down with COVID, so he couldn't be with us today for his session. So we're moving with the next session. So we have Arvind PJ with us, who is going to present a session on Nixology. So Arvind, over to you.
Thank you so much, Aksh. Uh, Hey guys, I'll be presenting a talk on Nixology. It's just a mnemonic on the Nix package manager operating system / language. I guess we can dive into it straight away. I'm gonna share my screen. If I don't know if this will work. Let's see. Just give me a second. Aksh, can you confirm with me if this is working?
You just have to press share at the bottom.
I think it's working, right? I already did.
Let me just check. Yeah, it's working now.
Awesome. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna give you guys a brief intro to Nix. What is Nix? Why you should know about it, and why it's a good thing, and why everybody should at least give it a try. So this will be a talk on a brief intro to Nix. My name is Arvind. I currently work at a company called Keynesop, and we are trying to move into Nix, using Nix as the workflow at our company as well. But in general, I'll be giving a very beginner level overview of Nix, since I consider myself as a beginner as well. So let's move forward. I didn't prepare a lot, so a lot of it's going to be ad hoc, but let's see. So what's Nix? Obviously, Nix is, first of all, it's a language, or more precisely, it's a purely functional language. What do you mean by a pure functional language? If you have experience with any kind of functional programming, primarily Haskell, you can kind of draw parallels with that. Functional language is how, think of how you write code. There's two ways to write code. Either you write code in an imperative manner or a declarative manner. Functional programming states or implies that you want to write code in a declarative manner, where you define what you want, not how you want it. So instead of, let's say, instead of figuring out the path to the solution, you figure out that I need this, and you get the solution. A very nice parallel to it would be SQL, where you write the command, let's say, select star from, or select ID from passengers where name equals, let's say, Aksh. Then you're telling the SQL interpreter that you want all the passengers who have the name Aksh. You don't tell it what to do. You don't tell the interpreter what to do, loop into the database or whatever. So that's what you mean by declarative programming, and how functional programming kind of overlays that. The main thing for functional programming languages is sorry. The main thing for functional programming languages is that you try to write code in a way how mathematically accurate it is. So instead of writing a loop, let's say, you try to not use a loop because it's kind of imperative, and you try to tell what to do. You pretty much tell the program exactly what to do, but for functional, you let the compiler / interpreter decide what to do. Instead, you just write a map, like let's say I want to sum sum these n numbers, I do a reduce operation on the whole list instead of doing a loop and adding it to a variable. Anyway, um, let's get back to the focus of the talk. That's Nix. Oh, I think I missed what purity is. Purity is essentially anything which does not depend upon the state of the outer lying system. So let's say in terms of programming languages, you have a function which takes in some input and spits out some output. Purity means given the same input, you'll always get the same output, irrespective of what the system state is or what OS you're running, or whatever the time is. It doesn't matter. Nix tries to be a very pure and functional language, just like Haskell. Of course, there are caveats where you try to go impure because you can't do everything pure. That doesn't make sense. Even printing to the display is considered as an impure action because it violates that. Things like these can fail, right? In a way, if you do a printf call, let's say in C, it can fail. It's not that it will always go through, and that's a function call which has two solutions. Then it can either fail or it can print whatever stuff you want to print. So that's impure. Anyway, Nix essentially is a language, but Nix is also a package manager. Now, what do I mean by that? Think of how Vim is, right? Vim is supposed to be a text editor, but we all know Vim also has a Vim script language, which usually is shortened to Vim itself. Similarly, Nix is something which is more popularized as a package manager instead of a language. The package manager uses the Nix language to work in a way. And since everything's pure and functional, everything's pretty concrete. This is very unlike how you'd have with the Aptitude or APT package manager, which a lot of people will be familiar with who use Ubuntu. Or I guess, I don't know what they use in Arc. But yeah, everything you do with Nix is written in Nix, the language itself. Aksh, just a question. Do you want me to take questions from the chat right now? I'm not sure if Aksh is there. But okay, I think let's make this interactive, and I'll take the question from chat itself. Preet says, how it is different from Erlang/Scala? That's a good question. Erlang and Scala are functional languages. Erlang itself is not a language in a way. It defines a certain set of rules of sorts. Like there's a lot of languages based on Erlang. One of them which we use at our company as well, Elixir. And Scala is kind of all over the place. It runs on the JVM, I believe. And the sole focus of both Erlang and Scala are more of an application level. Nix is something which is more focused on the package management level of sorts. I hope that answers your question. Again, I'm saying I'm not a proficient Nix user, and I want to be. I'm still a very beginner stage, but I believe this is something which people should know about. Okay. Sparsh has a question. In what way it's better than Ubuntu? It's a great question. I'll come back to this after the third point. The third point being Nix is also an operating system. It's called Nix OS, which is an entire OS fully based on the Nix package manager. To think of it, how Ubuntu works is it has a package manager. You can change the package manager to anything you want. Ideally, by default, it ships with the apt package manager and a bunch of other things, right? And you always run into this problem of dependency resolution. One program needs Python 3.7, the other one needs Python 2.7, 2.8, whatever the current version is. And you always run into issues where your system is at some state and the program requires some other state, and you kind of run into issues like these. Nix solves this. Nix solves this in a different approach. Instead of trying to create system level packages, it stores what it's called as derivations in Nix, and it does not it does not create any system level links. All it creates is for every version of package. Let's consider Python as an example. For every version of Python, you have Python 3.6.5, 3.6.6, 2.7 point whatever, sorry, 3.6 point whatever, and other things. Everything exists isolated. They are not interdependent on each other, but everything exists isolated. I'll explain to how it works in NixOS as well as the Nix package manager a bit later on the talk. But for now, like there's no concept of dependency resolution in Nix because every package exists. Every version you specify can coexist on your system. So there is no resolution algorithm that goes here or anything that usually happens in package managers. There are other package managers which have solved the issue in their own ways. I don't think even apt has the aliasing system, which is great, but not that great, I guess. Again, once you go next, you don't go back. That's how the thing goes. I believe it's the next best thing, next big thing. So yeah. Just 1 second. Let me give an example of how let's say you're building two projects. One requires Python 3.6.5 and for some reason it requires Node.js 14. The other project requires Python 3.6.2 and Node.js 16. How do you solve this? Sure, there is ways like you can use what is that called? Python environment thing. I forgot the name. It's called some environment management thing, pyenv something. But yeah, you can use that. Even for Node, you can use nvm, but it's not very elegant. Like for every different stack, you're using a different management tool, and it's not very elegant in a way. Instead, Nix kind of unifies everything into a single state where you can specify that, okay, for this particular application, I need Python 3.6.5 and Node.js 16. You can do that, and they will exist isolated in the system. And you can say that these packages should only be affecting this particular application, nothing else. The same goes for the other application where you need Python 3.6.2 and Node.js 16, let's say. All of these can coexist without interfering with each other. They don't even know that the other one exists, but the application will directly point to the versions that we need. There is no concept of dependency resolution because you always specify the exact version you need, which is amazing. Okay. Uh, okay, question from Aryan. Have you been using Nix at your workplace? If yes, do you find any problems with it? We very recently started using Nix at our workplace. Again, it's at a very nascent stage. Even we aren't very familiar with. There's only a couple of people who work on Nix, myself and our tech lead, and even we are very not very familiar with the Nix ecosystem. We are moving towards it because it solves a lot of problems for us, especially I myself, when I joined, I had a lot of issues with setting up everything correctly. Uh, and having a Nix build environment means I can just set it up with a single click. Imagine how you have Docker, where you can spin up an environment, spin up a container like which works every time. Similarly, you can set up a build environment with Nix. There's a lot more you can do, but that's what we're kind of using it for at the moment. Okay, we are going to mainly focus on the package manager, not the language, not the operating system. We're going to focus on the package manager and the inner workings of it, or at least the inner workings that I am aware of. So let's get started. Oh yeah, this is the part that I didn't prepare. So let's see how this goes. I think I have another slide. I hope. Yeah. Um, okay. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna be switching between the slide as well as the terminal a bit, and we're gonna focus on how Nix works and what the Nix store is, and a certain few other terminologies. So, first of all, the Nix store. What do you mean by the Nix store? Similar to how apt stores stuff in bin utils or user bin local something something, right? Again, I'm not aware, but there is some path where every binary is stored in a way. So the Nix store is a similar place, but for Nix derivations. Note that I don't use the word packages here. Nix does not say everything is a package. Nix says everything is a derivation. So there's a difference between package. Package as a whole does not exist in Nix. So I'm just pointing out the distinction here. Okay, the Nix store, which is basically root/Nix/store. That's the root of your computer. Let me switch to. Oh, whoops. I shouldn't have seen that, but okay. If you go to Nix store, this is first of all a read-only path where every derivation is stored. So if I do an ls, probably put it in ls because a lot of derivations, you can see every single derivation. You might recognize, let's say, Blue Man, which is used for Bluetooth Python 3.8. Every single one of them is stored here. There's both a DRV file, which is the derivation file, as well as there's a bunch of folders at the very bottom. I'm trying to find out, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. For example, there's a folder for Python 2.7. I can't find one for Python, the other one. So these are not any specific files. We're just seeding into this folder, and here basically is the Python executable. If you go to bin, you'll find Python 2.7 or Python 2, or symlinks to Python 2.7, etc., etc. So all of the binaries or whatever the file, whatever the things we need exist here in the Nix store. And note that the path to the Nix store is kind of weird. You have Nix store and then a weird looking hash, then the package name, and then the version, which makes sense because at every version change, the hash is recalculated based upon the source. There's a whole there's a whole Nix wiki page on how this hash is calculated. We won't go into depth into that, but just assume that this hash is unique for every single version of the package. Can you zoom in a little? Oh yeah, sorry. Let me know if this is fine.
Yeah, it's fine, I guess. I mean, you still have a little bit of space, so you can zoom more if you
Okay.
want. Yeah, yeah,
Oh no,
that's
this is
better.
fine. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. So yeah, I think I'll reiterate this part. We have a hash which is dependent upon the source. Then there is the name of the package and then the version. Again, all your packages will follow this structure. All your derivations will follow this structure. If you want, let's say Node.js will have, it's probably Node. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably somewhere around here. I'm not sure. It's probably named something else. But you get the point. Okay. Oh, I'm in the. Yeah. So every single Node.js version will be here. Let's say there's Node.js 10, Node.js 14, and all other things. Now note that when we define an application, we specify to the exact path here. We don't specify Node.js as a whole. We specify Node.js 14.17.1 with this hash. So you'll always be reaching this point in an application. And you can execute this like with the Node.js here. If you want Node.js, you can go to bin node and you're in Node.js 14.17.1. That's what you want, right? Note that this is not a system installation. This is just Node.js as a binary which exists. You can get a system-wide installation. Like Nix provides you a way with getting a system-wide installation as well. So let me just zoom in a bit here as well. Okay. So right now I do have node installed. If I do which node, it points to a place called home/Arvind/dot/nix profile/bin/node. I have it installed Node.js system wide. I'm using it via Nix. And if I go to this, it's too big. The node here is basically a symlink, I believe. Right. Give me 1 second. Okay. I believe I should be able to figure this out. Yeah. Basically, basically the path here is at my like this. I can access this as my Linux path, and there is a node here which is a symlink to the Node.js version which we have in the Nix store. So you see how this works, right? My system-wide installation points to this area, this path, and this path is a symlink to the Nix store. Now, if I want, I can upgrade my Node.js to something else. This will not delete this. It will create a Nix store for that new Node.js version, and then the symlink will point to that. of all of my programs, or all of my a lot of my packages, what we call packages, are installed via Nix. I use Nix package manager for everything. It's kind of a pretty much replacement, yet better because it doesn't populate or make your life hell in a way as it does in APT. I've had I've had I think 3 or 4 times where I had to reinstall Ubuntu because I messed up the Python packages. It happens to everyone, I believe. But yeah. So a lot of my packages, Argo CDs, Elixir, or Golang, Node.js, everything I use is part of Nix. And it just makes sense to use Nix for package management. Okay. So far, so good. Simple package manager stuff. You can install stuff via Nixenv, install all packages unstable dot something. You'll figure this out. This isn't necessary to learn or understand. The thing is, you can do all the basic stuff you can do with APT. Again, you can use both of them simultaneously. There's nothing wrong with not using APT and Nix. I use it all the time. There is some stuff in Nix which doesn't exist in. There's some stuff in APT which doesn't exist in Nix, and sometimes you have to do that. Nix is kind of nascent in terms of all the packages that we have. There's a very nice website where you can search for all the packages as well. I'll link to it. But before that, let's go to something very, very interesting, which none of the package managers I've seen provide. This is called Nix Shell. Basically, you can get a shell with any package you want. Let's say we want specifically, okay, let me go to the website first to understand what are the different packages we have. Okay, I already had that open. So you can search this website. Either you can use the website or you can use the Nix REPL for it. It's the same thing. I prefer to use the website because the search is better. Otherwise, you need to work with tab completion. Let's say I want some version of Node.js, specifically one of my projects is based upon Node.js 12 for some reason or Node.js 10 for some reason, and I can't work with anything above it. So, but that's a bummer. The normal way would be to use NVM here. That's what we strive for, right? If we want to use multiple versions in Node.js, we try to use NVM. But here we don't have NVM, and we can simply install Node.js 10 on our system path. So I can just do nix-env install Node.js. But note that this will replace my current Node.js with the new 10 version. Currently, I have Node.js 15 or 14.17.1, and I don't want to replace it with the 10.x.x. So what I can do is I can spawn in a shell instead with Node.js 10. What this will do is drop me in a bash shell with Node.js installed. That's it. Nothing gets installed on your operating system. Nothing gets populated. You can try out Node.js and you can use it. My bad, should be unstable. I changed a few things on my system. Just give me 1 second. My bad. It's a package, so we can just direct it on this. So I got dropped into a shell. If I do node version, I'm in a shell containing 10.24.1. Note that this is a different shell. The one at my system still contains 14.17.1. I'm just dropped into a shell with 10.24 with version 10 of Node.js. This is the power of Nix, right? You can get a shell with any package you want, any version you want. And now you can use this to build stuff. Again, this is the imperative way of just typing in the command nix shell -p node.js 10. But you can write it in a file and you can do it that way as well. cd desktop nix shells. Yeah. So this is basically a file which says you don't have to get into the nitty-gritties of what this is. Once you understand Nix, it's kind of obvious what this does. These are just helper functions of doing the same thing. Instead of Node.js as without version, I can just put in Node.js 10x here. And I can do, like, initially I did nix shell -p this, but I can also do nix shell and the name of the Nix file. Again, this will drop me in the same thing, but now I have a declarative way of getting the environment running, right? So with just a single file, node.nix, which specifies what version we want, I can get a build environment running. And this will be the same everywhere because this points to the same Nix store version of Node.js that exists on my computer or your computer or anywhere in the world. So that's how powerful Nix is. You can specify the exact build inputs or exact packages that you want, and it will work fine. It won't cause your system any harm or anything. As soon as I exit out of the shell, Node.js is no more, or Node.js version 10 is no more, and I'm back to version 14. So that's great. That's how Nix works. You just point it to the exact version you want, and you get it. Okay, I think I spent a lot of time in Node.js/Python. Oh no, spoiler alert. Anyway, moving on to the Nix store, there's a lot more theory to it. While Nix store is a read-only path, you don't ever modify the Nix store yourself. There's commands to do it. There's commands to install stuff. You can never manually do it. You can take backups and copies and get the same stuff everywhere. But yes, I already explained that the versioning is using the hash /package name -version. So yeah. There's this concept of Nix channels that we won't get into, but you can use Nix channels to specify which upstream you want to track. Let me just go to the GitHub repo of Nix OS. Yeah. There is this GitHub repo of Nix packages, which contains pointers or expressions to every single package that exists on the Nix package manager. And ideally, if you want your application to be up in the package manager, you should contribute here and it will work just fine. There is a way to again, I've not dwelled deep into how this works. I tried to do this a year ago and I left it midway, and then I'm restarting it since 2 weeks now. So pretty new here as well. But yes, this repo basically is a huge repo containing every single package and is up to date. It tries to keep you up to date with the other package managers, and usually it is, so you don't have to worry. But yeah. Coming back to the slideshow. Nix env is how you install into your current user environment. Okay. There is Nix shell, which I just showed you how you can get a shell with the current packages, whatever packages you want, etc., etc. and you can pretty much use the Nix shell as build environments. So I currently don't use it because a lot of my builds are kind of weird, and we're trying to move away from the weird portion of builds and make it standard. So that's that. There's a lot more stuff again that I'm not aware of. Nix is huge, and I don't know a lot of it. Okay, there's a question from Miss Dio. How are Nix and Docker different since they are similar in their use case about versions for packages, like you showed the node example right now? That's a very good question. Nix and Docker are different in a sense. Docker creates containers, Nix does not, first of all. The thing with Docker is, it is, if you think about it, it's also reproducible, right? They kind of solve similar problems with deploying stuff in a way. If you want to deploy an application, your go-to tool is Docker. You build a Docker image out of it and then you deploy it. Nix solves the build part of it. When you try to build or do development, it's usually not very handy to use Docker as your environment. Sure, you can do it. Like, I believe VS Code has very strong. Yeah, VS Code has very strong interactions with Docker, where you can use Docker as your development container and do a lot of it. But then again, you still run into the issues of having multiple, managing multiple different. Well, I guess if you think about it, Docker kind of solves the same issue as well. I guess it's just more annoying in a way, because now you need to manage multiple containers, and if you change something, you need to rebuild the image, restart it. You lose a lot of state information in between, etc., etc. So there is that. What about using the Nix package manager on top of another distro instead of using Nix OS? From Ryan Higa. Okay, awesome name. Big fan. I personally use Ubuntu. I don't use Nix OS at the very moment. I use Ubuntu and I just use the Nix package manager. It's for me. It's good because there's a lot of stuff which doesn't work on Nix OS. From what I've seen, for example, Solana/Rust. Well, Rust works, but Solana doesn't work. Solana requires some BPF level changes, which Nix does not allow at the moment, or there's probably a smart way to figure it out, but we don't know that yet. Which is why I personally use Ubuntu, your normal Ubuntu with Nix package manager. I also use apt, but quite frequently I try to do everything on Nix first, and if that fails, my last hope is apt. But yes, you can do that, and I believe as a starter you should do that. You don't see, it doesn't break your Ubuntu OS like anyhow, right? At the end of the day, Nix is basically this path. If you delete this, Nix is gone. That's it. Oh yeah. If you delete /nix/store from your computer, then Nix is gone. There's a couple of binaries that you need to delete as well, but that's it. So you can do that, and I encourage you to do that. If you're using Ubuntu or any other operating system, try installing Nix. It works on macOS as well. I used to use it on macOS, and it's pretty good. I think this pretty much concludes what I wanted to talk about Nix and why you should try this a bit. What is this presentation made with? Google Slides? What do you mean? Okay. I wanted to give a very small shout out to Nix OS as well. What Nix OS does is just amazing. You define a single file in NixOS called configuration.nix, with which you can pretty much define what your operating system looks like. This includes your desktop manager, your wallpaper, your private keys, your how your notification looks like, your everything, your VS Code plugins, your Vim plugins, your Emacs or whatever, everything you can use, you can do it within a single file. Of course, you can split it, but the thing is, you write everything in the Nix language, and it will always be recreated in whatever computer you use. So that's a very, very short intro into NixOS. Uh, it's a very good idea to check out NixOS as well. Uh, I've been meaning to switch to NixOS, but I haven't got the time for it. But the basic idea is you can use a single file to kind of run your operating system up, get your operating system up and running. And it's very, very powerful if you dive deep into this. Um, yeah, I think this can conclude the talk. I didn't spend too much time on it. And thanks.
Uh,
If there are any questions, you can go ahead.
yeah, like, did we have any questions in the middle?
We had a lot of questions in the middle. I think I clarified.
Yeah, I mean, something that we missed. I just mean something if we missed something.
Okay. Yeah, Arpit has a question. Like you said, a lot of things don't work on NixOS. Why are you considering switching then? Because it's fun. Otherwise, things get boring if things just work out the box. You don't get into the details of why things work, why things don't work, and understanding why something is broken or not. See, the whole point of using operating systems like Arch Linux is you want to get into the detail of how Linux works, right? Ubuntu does everything the same thing, and it has a very nice UI. But why would you use Arch Linux? Because it makes it harder, it makes it challenging, and it's fun to do. It's fun to learn by challenges. NixOS is kind of similar. It's very, very different from how Arch Linux works, and it gives a very nice challenge to work with. That's one of the reasons.
Right. So I don't think we have any more questions, and we covered all of them between the talks. So uh, I guess that should wrap it up. If you have any closing thoughts,
Sure. Yeah. Closing thoughts. I don't. I did not think I'd
I
be able
mean, you
to
can
finish
just
this.
just tell us about how your experience was during the talk and everything. Like anything
Okay.
you would like to say.
More or less, I think the management was pretty on point. Uh, I like. I'm aware of what happened behind the scenes, and somehow we got the live stream going, and it was pretty perfect. So that's good.
Thanks for that.
Good job, guys. You didn't break anything, and hopefully the other talks are great. And I'm pretty hyped for the hackathon as well as the CTF. And all the best to all the participants. I believe this is going to be great, and we hope to see a lot of cool projects. Surprise me if someone uses Nix in their like having a Nix shell as a development environment. That would be pretty cool as well. So if you want to try something cool, you should definitely check out Nix during the hackathon. I mean,
Yep. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time in coming out and giving us a talk. So that was it for this talk. And for the next talk, we will have Vaibhav Gupta. So we have a separate link for that so that we can kind of have separate videos for every speaker. So we'll be sharing the link on Discord. So you can just head over there and it's starting in like a couple of minutes. So you can move to that stream now. Thank you so much. See you
yeah,
there.
thanks so much.
And thank you.